What are triad real estate agents saying? They're saying that our housing market is finally starting to cool down.
But not that much. Oh no. That cool down is more like going from a hot 95 summer day to a 93-degree day.
Not much.
It is still blistering hot.
For example, one realtor said he's gone from seeing 12 people placing offers for one house to seeing 5 people putting in offers on a house. It is still a seller's market.
Triad market remains very strong and stable. Compared to June of last year, we're still seeing about the same number of homes being added to the market with total units. And even more importantly, we're in our 16th straight month of home selling at above 100% of asking price.
Above asking price.
Wow.
Hey there, I'm Ben Briscoe.
And I'm Tanya Rivera. We're going to dig into the impacts of this housing market, how you can actually benefit from it, and what it could take to get things back to normal.
Rising mortgage rates are starting to make it tougher to buy a home. Going from 3% to nearly 6% almost instantly means a huge difference in the price you'll pay over a 30-year loan.
Raising interest rates 2 or 3 points can be the equivalent of adding another $100,000 onto the price of a home.
The mortgage company Redfin says we're also starting to see more buyers back out of purchasing a home at the very last minute. In fact, last month was the highest percentage of deals falling through since the very beginning of the pandemic, when so many people were out of work. The Federal Reserve is scheduled to meet again next week. Economists expect them to continue to raise interest rates even higher.
Well, it's not just buying a home that costs more. Renting is getting pricey as well. Our Verified team looks at just how difficult it can be to afford a place to live.
Home prices and rents continue to rise, but the federal minimum wage hasn't changed since 2009. One viral tweet claimed, quote, "The average rent in the U.S. hit a new record high of $1,827 last month. On the federal minimum wage of $7.25, people take home $1,256 a month." Let's verify. Has typical rent in America exceeded the income earned on federal minimum wage? Our sources, the Department of Labor, and 3 real estate sites that produce research on rent prices. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 per hour. So let's calculate monthly income. On a 40-hour work week, if you worked 52 weeks a year, that comes out to $1,256 per month, just like the tweet claimed. Now, of course, some states have minimum wages higher than that, but we'll come back to that. The tweet says the average rent in America is $1,827 per month. That number comes from Realtor.com's April estimate of median rent. It's based off units advertised on the site in the top 50 metro areas and only includes studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom apartments. Redfin does a similar estimate based on listed units of all sizes. Its number for April was $1,962 per month. And Zillow's estimate actually tries to account for all rents, not just new listings. Their national typical rent number, $1,927 per month. All of those rent estimates are significantly higher than the $1,256 per month you can make on federal minimum wage. That means we can verify that the tweet is truthful when it claims typical rent has exceeded the income earned on the federal minimum wage. So what wage would you have to make to afford typical rent in the U.S.? Using Zillow's 1927 estimate, you need to make $11.22 per hour. And that's just to make rent. It doesn't account for taxes or other living costs. 16 states plus D.C. have minimum wages that high, but the cost of rent in those states may be higher than the national estimates.
All right, well, speaking of minimum wage, North Carolina has the same minimum wage as the federal government. ApartmentList.com says the average rent in Greensboro for a 1-bedroom apartment is about $1,000. Crunch the numbers and you find that someone making minimum wage earns about $15 grand before taxes. They could afford to live there. They just wouldn't have a ton of disposable income. Now, people see high costs all over the housing market as well. It is part of how rent got so expensive. Zillow says the average home in North Carolina costs $320,000. Now, that's up 27% from last year. In Greensboro, the median home sale is about $280 grand. That's $40,000 higher than last year.
Since the housing market started going crazy, so many people, including myself, have been sitting at home looking at Zillow, watching the estimated value of their home go up, up, and up, wondering if they should sell the place. But before you really consider that, we need to know, How accurate is that estimate? Zillow's website says they crunched the numbers to test their Zestimates in 2021. Back then, they estimated the price of 3.6 million homes across North Carolina that were currently off the market but eventually sold. 40% of them sold within 5% of the estimate. So if a home was estimated at $300,000, it sold between $285,000 and $315,000. 64% of those estimates were within 10%. So that $300,000 went from $270,000 to $330,000. And 83% of the time, those estimates were within 20%. So $240,000 to $360,000. Zillow says it uses state-of-the-art statistical and machine learning models that can examine hundreds of data points for each individual home.
It's just a starting point for conversations. It is not something that you should consider your home to be worth by any means.
Realtor Ty Cannon with Berkshire Hathaway says one of the big problems with Zestimates, homeowners can go in and change the data about their house.
You can say, my home really has 5 bedrooms because that bonus room could be a bedroom. So you change that, Zillow information input sheet to 5 bedrooms, and that's going to increase your estimate of your home when theoretically you would not be able to sell your home for 5 bedrooms because your permit is not for 5-bedroom home.
You might not do that, but your neighbors could. Their higher prices would raise yours estimate too. So if you really want to know what price would hit home with buyers, it's best to talk with a real estate agent. Affordable housing is a big deal. You have a chance to weigh in on how Greensboro handles the problem in the city election on July 26th. The city wants you to approve a $30 million bond for affordable housing. It's part of a larger housing plan with several projects over the next decade. This election also determines your next mayor. Join us tomorrow at 5:30 for the conversation with the candidates to hear their plans for our city.